So hello again, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another video here at Mad About Madeira, where I am deciding to do this video today inside our offices instead of sitting out there in the hot car that I've done. You know, the videos I've done recently have been pretty much done there in the car. Well, today I'm going to try to see if I can keep this brief. I did a video yesterday on this very same subject, but it was a very long video. Wasn't expecting it to go that long, so I'm going to try to see if I can really keep this within a certain time. But a big part of the video was what I had to preface it with. Now, based on the title of the video, I am surprised I had not done a video like this before. I think I've done it in parts throughout all my videos where I've mentioned some things that I loved about being over there in Portugal, being over there in Europe, and some things that I don't like here in the United States. I've mentioned it, you know, here and there throughout the course of my videos, but I haven't done one video where I could say I'm going to make that comparison. Now, starting off, I have to preface this by mentioning which I've also mentioned in a few videos, but if this is the first time you're coming across a video from me, I've mentioned in some other videos that when my wife and I traveled to Portugal a year and a half ago, we did not go because we saw the hype and everything going on with Portugal that it is now. We didn't know it was some new big travel destination, some big new retirement place. We didn't know anything about digital nomads. We didn't know any of that, the appeal that Portugal has today for many people. We knew nothing about that. We were going there for an entirely different reason. And that reason, if you've seen our other videos, had to do with the fact that we found out or learned, even though I had known for a little bit of, for a while, but it went into overdrive in the past few years that my wife and I, we have ancestry from the island of Madeira, which is a region of Portugal. It's an island, but it's an autonomous region of Portugal, sitting about 200 miles west of the coast of Morocco, the western coast of Morocco. So we were going there based on that. But another reason why, well, how it came about to some extent in terms of getting a glimpse of what it was like there was because I look at a lot of videos. I'm always on YouTube looking at videos. And I never really paid much attention to Portugal. It never really came up. I was looking at everywhere else but Portugal. But there was one family, and their YouTube channel is known as My Rich Journey. And when I saw them for the first time, I was looking at their videos because of their financial success. They were a young couple who retired early. And of course, I wanted to know how they did this. So I go looking at their videos, and I realized that they did it through diversification of their investments and so on. But when they were doing their video, I happened to notice that they were in Portugal. And I was just looking, so I'm paying attention to their financial advice, but they happened to be there in Portugal. And I'm like, okay, they're in Portugal, and of course they were a black couple, so I'm interested in two ways. Like, number one, their financial success, and number two, that they're in Portugal. So I'm looking and I see them there, and I think one of the first videos I saw with them, they took a trip to Madeira. I think that's what I saw. And I looked at it and I was just like, oh, nice, this is a beautiful island. They were in Funchal. That's basically all I saw, the capital city of Madeira. So that's all I saw. But from what I saw, it was like, place is nice and clean. It's really beautiful, quiet. Looks really nice. Didn't pay much attention to it after that. But not long after, something came up. I started finding out more about my family information, found out more about Madeira, and I told my wife, I said, listen, you know what? For our 5th anniversary, which would have been in 2020, I said, for our 5th anniversary, why don't we go to this island? I don't know anybody there. I don't know anything about over there, really, Why don't we go there instead of going to the usual hotspots of Paris and London or Germany or Barcelona, or in our region, Jamaica, the Dominican Republic, Cozumel. Why don't we go to this place called Madeira? Let's be daring and go to this place at an island to boot, not even mainland Portugal, even though we did fly into Lisbon. And we decided to go, and we go over there. But while we were there, after we came back, or while we were there, we were making our own observations, you know? And I must admit, I did go with some preconceived notions about certain things. First of all, I thought when we went there, people were going to be, so now talking about one of the things in terms of comparisons here in the, for what we encountered, what we spoke about. So I'm not doing one of those kind of things like where it's like first, and then, you know, you see all the different captions come up and so forth. So I'm just going to be having a conversation as I've always done with you guys as an audience, okay? Let me just adjust this a little bit more. So the first thing we noticed were the people, obviously. So when we went there, one of the preconceived notions I had, and, you know, my wife, I was a little more, I'm a people person, so I was a little bit more leery with her, thinking that something would disappoint her or something that would unnerve her or something along that line, because she's not much like a people person like I am. So I get there and I'm figuring, I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop, because I'm realizing that I'm going to, and please forgive me for you people who are from Europe, from Madeira and so forth. You have to understand, we come from the United States where race is still a big thing, okay? So when you hear me bring that up, I hope I'm not annoying you, but it's just a big thing here that we still deal with in this country. So you'll hear me mention black, white, and that's something I hate to do, but it's just on this side of the world how things are defined. But when we got there, we realized that we were in a predominantly white country. And we were waiting, I should say I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. I thought I was going to go there. I thought I was going to get an extra stare. You know, people would be looking at us like, okay, you know. Of course, this is not to say I was that naive to think that Portuguese people do not know what a person of my color look like, you know. But we get there, and I'm waiting for somebody to give me that extra stare, that extra long look. It never came. It never happened. As a matter of fact, when I got there to the airport, how friendly the people were at the immigration line, you know. When we got up to the counter here in the United States, when we came back, we're being grilled from head to toe. What did you do? Where did you go? Who did you talk to? What did you drink? What do you have? That's what we were dealing with when we came back. Meanwhile, over in Portugal, we showed up, came up to the counter, handed out passports. Hi, how are you today? Spoke to us in English. Like, we're doing fine. They were like, oh, you coming here for a vacation or whatever? And, you know, we were like, yeah, just coming here, first time being here and whatever. Okay, have yourself a nice day. That was the end of it. Left, went outside. Uber driver, friendly as ever. We're talking. He asked us where we're from, again speaking to us in English, which is a big plus in Portugal, speaking to us in English, and we told him that we're from this particular area, South Florida, the Miami area basically, even though we don't really live in the Miami area, a little further north, but I figured just mentioning Miami would, you know, make it a little bit more relatable. And he starts telling us about Miami and whatever, get to the hotel. Go inside the hotel, get to the desk. Get to the counter. I'm still waiting for that extra stare or a little bit of nastiness or a little bit of, you know, a black person, I don't know. You know, I'm waiting for that. Got to the counter. No such thing happened. As a matter of fact, the guy and I, we spoke about Golden State basketball, Miami Heat basketball, and we're going back and forth and laughing it up and everything, you know. Gave us a great time. Even upgraded our rooms, which I didn't even ask for, you know. Just upgraded our rooms. Get upstairs, come back downstairs a little bit later on. Someone replaced them. She's from the Canary Islands. Same wonderful personality, and everything is going on and everything is going well. Just came down, asked for some recommendations of places to go to. They told us where we can go. We get there, same exact pleasant staff. And then guess what? We saw black people like us. Like, whoa, it's cool, you know? So that was the people thing, and that was just in Lisbon. So now, the next day, I think we spent this, because we flew in on a Saturday, left on a Saturday, arrived on a Sunday, so the Monday we were in Lisbon also. Monday we get up, it's regular everyday school, we went down, school day, we go down to a local restaurant to get some breakfast because we were just winging it, didn't really know what was going, because I don't know the place. So we get downstairs, we go have breakfast. I'm looking out the window, and when I look, I see some ladies pull up, and they're all on scooters, young ladies. And I'm like looking at them, and it's like different ethnic groups. I'm like, that's cool. That's cool. They were all on scooters, just there at the light, just waiting, sitting there. I'm just watching that. And you have to understand, I live in the suburbs here in South Florida. We don't see that at all. As a matter of fact, when you do see that, people start judging you that you're poor, you can't afford this, you're that. They start, kind of setting themselves against you, like I have a car, you don't. Didn't see that over there at all, which I'm going to get to later on. Then school, I was personally down in that area. We went back to the hotel. I left my wife there, and I went down again. I'm just wandering around the place, just looking, observing. And then school came to an end in the area where I was, and I'm watching the students, and it's just a diverse crowd. And there wasn't this thing like all these set of kids are over here and all these set of kids are over here. I saw kids that I suspect were Africans. I saw kids that looked like they were from the Middle East. I saw kids who looked like they were from India, maybe Pakistan, Afghanistan, wherever. And they're all walking together just talking. And I'm just like, I love to see that. So looking at the people, the diversity. Now I know I was in Lisbon and I was not out in some remote area, but it was just so nice to see, because I'm a people person. I'll talk to anybody. I don't care where you're from. As long as you come with respect, I'm good with you. So just in Lisbon alone, it was something else. Now, when we went over to Madeira, same situation. And my wife eventually met family over there. We kind of got in touch with them before we made it to Madeira. And when we got there, they took us out to dinner 2 nights in a row. And when we went out, we went to a restaurant in Funchal, and admittedly, we're the only black people there. People all over the place, having food. Again, I'm sitting there just waiting for like maybe an extra stare, maybe some little kid like, Mommy, look at that guy, he's different color, I was waiting for all of that, and it was just the weirdest thing. Like, nobody was even paying attention to us. Nobody. No one was like, okay, well, what are they doing here? It was nothing like that. That is on me, okay? That is on me. Projecting what I thought would happen. But as far as I got with this, and we were all over Madeira, went into rural areas, stopped looking around. There was nobody stopping and like, wait a minute, what are they doing here? But here in this country, if I go to certain parts of maybe Mississippi, remote areas, maybe Arkansas, I could expect some stares. I can expect to feel a little awkward being in certain places here. But there in Madeira, I did not feel any of that at all, at no point. Now, granted, and I need to disclaim this by pointing out that I am a small sample size. So I don't want anyone coming on here or going to their friend. Some guy on YouTube said that if I went to Europe, all my problems will fade away and everything will be fine. I'm not saying that, mind you. And we were only there for a total of about 5 days. So I am a very, very small sample size compared to other people who've been living in Europe for quite some time, months, years, or whatever. And they would be more of an authority to probably speak on matters like this. But one of the reasons why I'm bringing this up, which I failed to mention earlier, was that when we got back, or while we were there, and my wife and I were talking amongst ourselves and comparing notes, we didn't have anything else to go against. This is just what we were observing. But when I came back and started watching videos of people who've been to Europe, people who've been to Portugal, I started to notice that what we were saying and what we were observing, these people who were there for a longer period of time, or who live there, or who have moved back to the United States, maybe briefly, or came back for a visit, they're saying the same exact things that we were saying. So we didn't feel like we were crazy or we were seeing things. Apparently, there is something to it, that the people there are just different than what we find here in the United States. And I'm not saying the United States doesn't have wonderful people and so on. You could meet wonderful people here. But it just seems like it's more of a cultural thing there, just to be hospitable and nice and personable. Now, again, I have not been all over Europe, but there in Portugal, there in Lisbon, because I had a friend of mine that said years ago, she said she went to Portugal. And I remember she went all throughout Europe and she was talking about all the different places. And I remember she said she got to Portugal and the people seemed a little uptight, a little grouchy, you know. But I've come to find out that the Portuguese people are pretty straightforward, blunt people. And you can't look at their facial expressions and judge their character, you know. So she must have felt a different way. But I have to admit, one thing with her, and I don't know, she is a Muslim and she wears the whole garb and everything. I don't exactly know if that was off-putting or I have no idea, you know, understand? I don't know. But it could have been a contributing factor as why she may have gotten that extra look or whatever. I really don't know. So that was something that was quite interesting. The second thing is, now I could say a lot more about the people, but the second thing I want to talk about is the food. Another preconceived notion. My wife and I, we come from the Caribbean. As you've heard me spoke before, I am from St. Thomas, United States Virgin Islands. My wife is from Guyana. We're both from what we would consider the Caribbean community. We believe in seasoning our foods. We believe in spicy foods. Our foods, second to none. I know most people are familiar with Jamaican food, but just think about Jamaican food and just think about the rest of the Caribbean. That's how we do our food. Our food is going to pop in your mouth. So I'm going to Europe because we make a lot of jokes over here that the white folks in this country seem to be a little foreign to seasoning. Okay, of course it's a joke. We know not all white people are doing that type of stuff, but for a lot of times they cook their foods kind of bland, kind of boring. So I'm thinking I'm going to a predominantly white country. I'm going to expect the same thing over there. Well, was I in for a surprise of my life? I remember when my wife and I went out, I don't know where it was. My wife does not eat tomatoes because it gives her indigestion. And I don't know where we went, but she said, hey, taste this. And she let me taste. It was either a piece of lemon or a piece of tomato. And I remember when I went ahead and ate it, I was just like, wow, that's what it's supposed to taste like? And we couldn't believe it. So we noticed that the food was just fresher. It just tasted different. It tasted better than what we're accustomed to over here. You know, I'll eat like a piece of tomato and it tastes like I'm just eating water, you know? And I'm eating a tomato over there. It actually had flavor. It had life. It had color. And I was just like blown away by how good it tasted. So, okay, thought that might have been a fluke. But the other places we ate, same exact review. Just great food. When we got to Madeira, we went down to a place called, oh boy, I forgot the name of it. It's north of Machico. And we went there down by the seaside and we had, I had a snapper. Now, where I come from, I didn't even know that there were different types of snappers, but where I come from, we have snappers, but it's generally red snappers, right? So I go there and they gave us some snappers and I was just like, a snapper. Thing was as big as, I don't know. I ate through that thing and every morsel was just, it just tasted great. I have a video which I'm gonna put up on this channel. It's a short little video with my wife eating her food. She's joking around, but it's just like, it was just heaven. Then, speaking of the food, that was fantastic on its own. Everywhere we went, the food was just great. As a matter of fact, for our anniversary night in Lisbon, we went to an Italian restaurant. Oh my God. Let me not even get into that. That was just fantastic. But, talking about the food and talking about Lisbon. So we go out to eat and at the Italian restaurant for our anniversary. So after we're finished, we're so accustomed in this country to start pulling out tips. So we're here spending like $100 for dinner for 2 people and then have to turn around now and it's almost like you're guilted into giving a tip to the people that serve you, which is not a bad thing, mind you, because these people just don't get paid. This is just America, right? So oftentimes you don't mind tipping them. But what the restaurants like to do, it's like, well, we're not going to pay you that much money. Let the patrons go ahead and pay you and make up the money that you should be getting. That should not be our responsibility. You understand? But that's what the restaurants do. We're going to pay you meager wages and put the pressure on the patrons to pay you. So in Lisbon, I'm there looking around to give a tip, and the lady's looking at me like, a tip? What are you talking about? What tip? I'm like, yeah, we're supposed to give you a tip, right? And she's like, no, we don't require a tip. I'm like, no? So I had to make up an excuse because it was great service. I said, look, you know what? I still want to give you guys a tip. So she was like, well, and I think at the time I had I had US, I don't remember what I had. And I was like, well, I don't really have cash with me. Where can I get some? This is like 11 o'clock at night. And she says to me, go outside, go down the street. There's an ATM down there if you want to take some money out, So I go outside, few people walking on the streets. There's some people sitting on the sidewalk, like a little sidewalk cafe, and they're there. The ATM is outside on the sidewalk. And there are various people walking back and forth. I don't know what it is, but as I was walking down the street, I didn't feel any fear. I just didn't feel that, like looking over my shoulder, looking around. Didn't feel any of that at all. I went right up to the ATM. There were people walking behind me, going back and forth, and it's on the street. And I'm taking out the money, put it away, walk past the same very people. Of course, some people said hi and whatever, but no one, I didn't feel it. There were some young guys walking in the street, and I started looking at them like, I wonder what they were up to. Nothing happened. Just walk right back to the restaurant. So the whole tip thing, was just like not something that they expect there. Another thing about the food in Madeira, it also happened to us in Lisbon. So we're sitting at the table, and we get the menu, and they brought us some things to eat before. Some small little whatever it was I think we were eating. So we're sitting there eating, and then we're wondering after a while how come no one has come back to us as yet. So we're sitting around like, guess they forgot about us, So I'm here like thinking, okay, maybe the first bad experience here, like just have us sitting here waiting. I'm just waiting. So I happen to just look around, and I look over, and I see the guy who brought the bread or whatever he brought to our table like 15 minutes earlier. I see him standing at a distance, kind of like, casually like looking over our way. And I happened to, after a while, I got up and I walked over to him. I said, we were waiting for a while. Can you, is there? He says, oh, you're ready? And I said, yes. And he comes over. I did not know that was a thing. They're not like over here where the waiter is bothering you every 5 seconds. They don't come to your table every 5 minutes. It's like they give you your space. They give you your privacy. And when you are ready, you call to them to come to you. Not come, are you ready yet? Are you ready yet? Are you ready to order yet? Are you ready yet? It's nothing like that. We got our food. They didn't come and bother us either. They didn't come, is everything okay? Is this? Is that? Is this? That's great here in the United States and everything, but you're eating and you're like, is everything great? Yes, everything is fine. Do you have everything you need? Yes, we have everything we need. And so, then it's like, oh, can we get you something else? Oh, it's okay. Yes, we have everything here. That was not happening over there. And I found that somewhat refreshing, right? You probably think it's nice for someone to come and check on you every 5 minutes, but I like the idea that they just gave us our space and just left us alone. And if we needed them, we called them over. I prefer that. So that's another thing that I found interesting over there. Safety is the next thing. You've heard me say, I live in South Florida. I live in a gated community. I'm not privileged like that, but I just happen to be in a gated community. And I live in a relatively decent area of South Florida. But yet, when I pull up the information around me, and even just like blocks down the street from me, I'm seeing things about burglaries, break-ins, attempted rape, mugging. I'm just like, wow. While we were over there in Madeira, I just did not feel any. I just didn't have that. My hair doesn't stand up. My hair wasn't standing up on my back, feeling like there's always danger around me. Because I look around, I hear the gunshots at night. I have an app that shows me all the different things that happen within a 2-mile radius of me, and I see all the crazy things that go on, and it's just like wow, Not saying that things probably don't happen in Portugal and Madeira and other parts of Europe. I'm sure they have their fair share. But that overwhelming fear that I feel here, like anything can happen. Like I can pull up to a gas station and feel someone's just going to come, stick a gun to my head, stick a gun to my back and say, look, I'm taking your car, have a nice day. The fear that I have driving and stray bullets, which have killed people down here, where gang members are firing after each other and they miss whoever they're shooting after, and the gunshot hits you and kills you. A young girl died the other day, a little girl in her house, watching television, got shot. Bullet came through her window because they were out there firing guns after each other. Just didn't feel that over there. None of that. And it was very refreshing when we spoke to the people at the hotel, and they're looking around at us like guns, like we just don't have those things here. We don't worship those things like you Americans do. We don't feel we have to walk around. Everybody has to be strapped, as we say here in this country. We don't have that. It's big news when the police pull somebody over with guns. But over here, it's like the norm. And here in South Florida, we had a governor who just basically said, even if you're crazy, you can walk around with your gun. Open carry, as they call it. Everyone can see it. Have it strapped to your legs. And we also live in a state here in Florida where if a person feels threatened, it's called stand your ground. And threat can be different things to different people. I felt threatened, so I pulled my gun and shot him. And that person can get off free because he falls under the stand your ground. I felt threatened. Same thing the cops tell you. I felt threatened, so I pulled my gun and shot this guy 87 times in the back of his head. We just didn't feel that over there. And one of the interesting things was we went to an H&M store there in Funchal. And they had a metal detector to, check to see if anyone is stealing anything. It goes off. The weird thing about the store was this. The metal detectors are right up to the front of the store, the entrance to the store. Where the registers, the store goes in this way and then goes around a corner. And it's around the corner, out of view of the metal detectors, are where the registers are. It's not like the metal detectors are right there and there's a register here and there's security walking around the place. There was none of that. I'm sitting here thinking, so the metal detectors are all the way up to front. So you could literally walk in off the street, take 2 steps in, grab a dress and run right out the store and disappear. There were no security and the metal detectors were there. I don't know what they were there for. Apparently nothing happens. It seems like people are just what people should be, honest and fair, and not taking things that doesn't belong to them. Over here, we have smash and grabs in our malls. Throngs of people just show up in a mall, completely confusing security because there's like 20 people smashing things and just grabbing and just hoarding and taking off. Over there, I don't know of anything like that happening. And again, we were there for a brief period of time, but I didn't see any of that happening. Didn't hear about any of that stuff. Speaking of H&M, right outside, you have your transportation outside. I saw people there on buses. People were walking all over the place. I saw people walking through tunnels. I saw people walking. So you didn't feel this kind of thing that you feel here in South Florida. Like it's like it's considered like humbling or beneath people to walk, to be on the streets. Because how don't you have a car? Why don't you have a car? Are you poor? Everyone has a car. Over there, it wasn't like that at all. People were walking, and people were walking. And I just, people were waiting for buses. There were just people walking all over the place. So if we were walking also, so we didn't feel like, oh my goodness, people have to know we're poor, we're visitors, we can't even afford a car. I mean, we did have a car, thankfully, for my wife's family, but we didn't have to feel like as though, just imagine getting off in the middle of Nevada somewhere. And because of the horrible transportation system this country has, unless you're in a large city like New York or maybe LA or something like that. But in your other cities, medium-sized cities, we don't have the greatest of transportation. Here in South Florida, it's gotten better from when I was living here 15 years ago. It's gotten better. But I remember when I was living here before, you would not see a bus or anything. Trains, forget it. You would not see a bus or anything beyond Fort Lauderdale. Out here in the suburbs, it was all cars. You saw someone walking, you just know they couldn't afford a car. And there are no sidewalks in a lot of places. No one is riding any bikes either. And if you're riding a bike now, it's like, okay, well, I guess you can't afford a car. You're looked down on. Didn't find that over there. Transportation abound. They were all over the place, and people walking back and forth, going to their various destinations. Didn't see anyone looking around, and then of course, because people are doing so much walking and going back and forth to where they may go and where they have to go, didn't see a lot of overweight people. Didn't see a lot of obesity. Here, it's all around. And going back to foods, because of the garbage that we eat over here. And because of all the things that's injected into our foods and so forth, because it is a large population. And because we're in a capitalist society, they want to make as much profit as they can. So they go ahead and they inject all these preservatives and additives and everything to preserve their things as long as they can on shelves. But overall, it's just not good for us. So that was that. The costs, on the other hand, for us as Americans, it was relatively cheap for us. Now, I do understand, I'm not going to say this like other people, where when they're talking about how cheap Portugal is and so forth, they're talking about it in relation to Americans going there or people from other countries where they make more money than the average person in Portugal they come to. I have to keep in mind that the average person in Portugal, they're not breaking the bank. I think that minimum wage is like $9. I think it's somewhere around there, whereby, you know, the minimum wage in some of these states, $15, $16, $17, you know, I'm making well over that. So if I go to a place like Portugal and I had this job, I would be doing very well. So yes, relatively speaking, as an American, if you're making $17, $18, $19, $25, $30, $40 an hour, and you go to Portugal, your dollar is going to go much further, obviously, because the prices are somewhat set to how the people there can afford it, even though it's really kind of climbing because of people like us moving there. You know, the prices are going up, so it's making it difficult for the local Portuguese person. But when we went there, our dollar could go really far. For example, if my wife and I go to Miami right now and have dinner for two at a relatively nice restaurant, we're looking at anything above $40 and higher for the two of us. Okay, throwing a tip and everything, you could be looking at whatever. Three of us go out, you're looking at easily $100. Over there in Portugal, between my wife and I eating, I don't think we spent more than $25 for the both of us. I think for our anniversary dinner, it's probably more like $30 for the both of us. So that was the other thing there. I understand that, you know, you can go to the markets and foods are going to spoil faster over there because they're natural. They're going to do what they naturally do. They grow, they get ripe, and then they die. Over here, you can have you could have an orange sitting in your fridge for like 3 years and it's still the same apple, the same orange you had from 3 years ago, and it's there 3 years later, didn't spoil, didn't do anything, and you're like, okay, well, we know what happened there. So in terms of costs, it did not cost us as much as it would have been here in South Florida. Right now, we can barely afford things because things are just so ridiculously high. Again, we know we're speaking relative because there are people in Portugal who could say the same thing on their salary. Things are incredibly high for them, right? Same thing like I'm saying here. But if I had to take the money I'm making here and bring it over to Portugal, and I can use that money over there, you know, and keep my job here, keep my income from here, yes, I'll be doing relatively well in Portugal. Okay, so I have to say costs relative, but if you're an American, you go over there, you're carrying a certain amount of money with you, your money's most likely going to go much further over there. Okay, so here's another thing, the hustle culture, and I'm trying to keep, I didn't want this video to go this long, but the hustle culture. Here, it's like you come to realize in this country, you're used as a robot. Just work, 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 work. Run yourself in the ground. Time off is limited. Sick time, all those, you hear it all the time, how America is the only industrialized country not to have this or not to do this. We're out there on a limb all by ourselves, whereas in other countries, it's not as bad as this. In other places, like in Europe, there are even countries that are called third world countries that have things when it comes to family, when it comes to individuals that have better things in place than here in the United States. Here it's all about the hustle. And if it's not about the hustle, it's about consuming. Get this, even on holidays, when you're supposed to be spending time with your family, merchants are out there, different companies are advertising to you. Instead of going to that picnic, come down here and get a new car from so-and-so Toyota, or, you know, or Christmas sale and Labor Day sale and Memorial Day sale, and they still want you to be spending money on those days when you should be spending time with your family. Hey, we're going to take 50% off of this if you come down here today on Memorial Day. The quality of life, family, people, community has completely eroded in this country. So there's no, I'm not saying that you don't have people who don't make the time to do that. But it's not like it's encouraged. It's not like it's around you. It's encouraged to go out there and work to make the next buck. And then there's these things like billionaires showing up. Well, look at me. I'm a billionaire. If you just work hard, you can be just like me. So it's this carrot and the stick where we're just running after it. And when it's not them, in my community, in the black community, you have the rappers out there flipping their money like, hey, you can be, hey, look at me with all the girls in Miami in a yacht somewhere, and this is what you need to be doing. And this is the aspiration of so many different people. Struggling, trying to get there, trying to keep up with the Joneses. Just did not feel that over there in Europe, in Portugal. Did not feel it. Did not see it, did not feel it. I just saw people walking in the streets I couldn't tell you. But over here, oh man, somebody's gonna pull up in a Maserati, a Lamborghini, and trying to show you. You go down to Miami Beach right now, and you go down Ocean Drive. That's all you see, guys flossing. Flossing meaning like showing off, driving really slow, leaning on the side, have their nice BMW, nice rims and everything, and they want to show you, look at me, check me out, hey, I've got it, you know, I got it, I got the money, I got the bills, and they're trying to get the girls. And my wife and I, neither one of us are into that kind of stuff. We're not into materialism and so forth. So Portugal and places in Europe that are more laid back and not into all of that kind of stuff appeals to us. It may not appeal to other people, but it appeals to us. So these were just some of the differences we noticed while we were there compared to here in the United States. We thought it was just us. It was just like, I guess it's just us who noticed these things, you know. Maybe we just had in the 5 days, we just had it pretty good, you know, that nothing happened. And these are the things we observe. But when I came back and I started watching all these videos about Madeira, Portugal, Europe, started watching these comparison videos and whatever, then I was like, wow, so we really weren't seeing things. These were things that were actually true. Just before I came upstairs, I was looking at an article. It's in Cider magazine, and I forgot to mention it, but I think it was a lady who moved to Dublin, Ireland. She was there for 4 years, and she came back to the United States, and it's like culture shock, like, what in the world is this country? What are we doing? What's going on here? She goes to Dublin, Ireland, and all of a sudden it's like I regain my life, my sanity. I come back to the United States and you just don't recognize the place. It's just like everybody trampling over each other trying to get that dollar. People sacrificing their family to get that dollar. People having to sacrifice their family just to keep up with the cost of everything that's going on here. And let's not talk about the political divide. Let's not talk about the craziness that's going on here in terms of politics and the potential craziness that can happen in 2024, like what happened in 2020, probably even worse. We're having signs at baseball games where people are dropping these big signs saying Trump or death. We've lost it. And one last thing I'm going to say, I know there are people who do these type of videos, and they're like, I don't want to say anything bad about the United States. I love the United States. It's beautiful. It has beautiful places. And because it's so big, you have a diversity in your landscapes and everything. It's all what you want. South Florida, if you want a tropical feel. The Rockies, if you want a more mountain feel. Nevada, if you want more of a desert feel. You have all of those type of things going on. So the land itself is beautiful. The people, on the other hand, they're wonderful people here, mind you, but it's a lot of nastiness here. And this ethnocentric idea that we are the best nation on the earth, I just don't subscribe to that anyway. So when I went to Europe and see how Europe does what they do, and I realized that there's a lot of things that they do that's better than over here, I look at the United States and like, we've sold that package so well. We've sold that, I want to say, that marketing, and let me not say lie, but we've sold that marketing so well to so many other people that they feel as though the United States got to be it. I've got to kill myself to make it to that country. And yes, there are opportunities here. Yes, you can make a good life here depending on what you're doing. You can succeed here in this country, yes. But there's just such a gap that's coming in. It's moving so fast between where you are and what they tell you should be at. That's very difficult. So the way I look at the United States is like me as a man looking at a beautiful woman. You see beauty and you're struck. Wow, she's beautiful. But then she opens her mouth, or you get to know her, and you find someone who's either dense, have no smarts, a dark soul, maybe a bad person overall. And do you ever notice that whenever you get to know a person and realize how bad they are, that the outward beauty is just fades? You look at them and you just can't see the beauty anymore? That's how I feel here about the United States. I look on and when I watch from 2020 to now, how it seems like there was like a cesspool, like a sewer that was opened up, and all of the bad. The United States have always had its bad to it. Make no doubts about it. No matter what it says and the facade it carries on, it has done some horrible things, right? But in terms of certain people, the fringe groups with all the wild, crazy ideas and all the hatred and all the animosity and all the all that stuff was always kind of like kept out of polite society. It's like, yeah, we know we have some crazy people over here that say some crazy things, and they have a whole bunch of nationalistic, fascist ideas and whatever. They're over there in a corner, keep them over there. This is polite society over here. Well, then since 2020, it's like it was ripped apart, and like they came up, and now they're mainstream. Now they're in your face, and now they sound like they represent the real America. With all of their, oh, get out of America, and we want our country back, and all those crazy things that's going on now. They want their country back? Let them have it, because I don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to be in between them. I don't want to be a part of their representation. So, lots of differences. I know I said a lot. I know I was very passionate about what I was saying, and there's probably a whole bunch of things that I skipped anyway. But to be honest with you, overall, going to Europe, going over to Portugal, which I know it's not all of Europe, mind you, but representative of Europe to some extent, I just had a better time there. I felt much better being there. I feel much better about wanting to move there, and I would much prefer to be there than here. Somehow over there, they still have some things that just seem right, and that appeals to me and my wife. It may not be for everyone, but definitely it would be something that I would. Now, I know there will be a honeymoon period. You go over there, get into it at first. After a while, things can wear off and you may want to leave and go about your business. But I know that we can probably stick it through and get past that honeymoon phase and settle in, get into reality, understanding how things are. And I think we'll just prefer to do that, especially for our little 5-year-old boy. Anyway, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. I greatly appreciate you sticking all the way to the end of this video. I really appreciate it. You can put comments down in the comment section. I would greatly appreciate that. I may have said some things that may have offended some people. Hopefully I did not. But I hope you understand where I'm coming from. I'm very passionate about this, and there's a lot more that's driving all of this. The more I learn about the economic system in this country, the more I learn about neoliberalism and all the crazy things that have just been put in place to make life difficult here for the average American. So much as that drove what I'm saying right now. Okay? Anyway, thank you again for tuning in. I really appreciate it. You can like it. Hopefully the YouTube algorithm picks this up and it's moved around YouTube and it gets out there to quite a few people. You can share it, but I would love to hear what you think about what I had to say about this, okay? You guys take care. Until the next video from Mad About Madeira, I really appreciate your time, okay? You guys take care.